I'm Jim Donio, and welcome to String Band Sessions Podcast. Our next series of podcasts is entitled Concept to Creation. I will be talking to representatives from all 14 string bands about how they are planning and developing their ideas for the 2026 Mummers Parade. Hey, this is Jake Kudrick, who is marching captain of Duffy String Band. So tonight we're talking to Duffy about what they're going to be doing for 2026. But before we get into that, just a little bit about Duffy and a little bit about Jake. So it's Duffy's 80th year, and Jake is just the fourth captain in all of those years, the fourth captain of Duffy String Band. Duffy was founded in 1945, was originally the Firefighters String Band, and George Duffy, who was a fire captain, was captain of the band for 15 years, and then they subsequently renamed the band for George Duffy. And then George was followed by the inimitable Henry Kunzig Sr., who was your granddad.
Yep.
And then he was captain. Wow, how long was he captain? He was captain for 25 years. And he was succeeded by his son, Teddy Kudrick, who was your dad. So I'm sure you have memories, lots of memories. But tell me, let's talk a little bit at the beginning here about what are your memories of those first few years as a real little guy, which you are not anymore, a little guy marching with. Did you march with Henry at all, or was it just with Teddy?
No, it was just with my dad, Teddy.
Just with your dad. So what are your memories of that?
A lot of memories that I have with marching with him are from when we would do the Wednesday night parades on the boardwalks. We would always make a trip out of it. We'd go down there, do the boardwalk, go up and down, and then we would go out afterwards and go get a meal. And it usually ended up being like Sam's or something on the boardwalk. Sam's is better than Mac's. Hot take. But like overall, just great memories, especially going down the shore with the parades.
And how about New Year's Day? I mean, there's so much pressure and excitement and energy around New Year's Day, and you were from like a really little guy for those handful of years. What do you remember from that? What was that like?
I remember bits and pieces of it, but most of the time on that day, it goes by in a flash. All the other guys will tell you, you don't remember much.
Mm-hmm. You were a little guy, and you're right. I mean, I remember myself. It does kind of often go by in like such a blur because it's so much happens and there's just so much excitement around it. Unfortunately, sadly, you lost your dad in October of 2017, and then the band, makes the decision to have you succeed him and be the marching captain on January 1st, 2018. And I remember it vividly because I was working the parade at City Hall, and the band did its performance, and you were amazing, and the performance was over, and I don't know, like in that moment, I just felt compelled to literally like chase after you as you left City Hall. And I'm not sure if you remember it, but I came up to you and I grabbed your hands and I said, you were just amazing. Your dad would be so proud of you. And I have a feeling you're going to win a captain's prize. After I said it, I thought, oh, gee, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I felt that in the moment. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
That moment?
Absolutely. It's funny because I don't remember a lot from that day, but I do remember that moment of you coming up. And, I knew coming from such a person like you that hopefully it was a credible source.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. I guess I'm a credible source. But it was exciting for it to actually come through. And so you got fourth prize captain, and the band had its highest finish in more than 50 years, which was, pretty incredible, very well, very, very well deserved. And I'm sure something that, will be something that you'll always remember. So now you're in college. So here we are. We went from 11 years old, 12 years old. Gosh, turn the clock ahead 7 years. Now you're in college. So tell us a little bit about what the first year of college has been like for you and how you've balanced not just the band, but you're an athlete as well. You're a baseball player. So how is it to balance those three things?
In the first semester, it's a lot of trying to make rehearsals when you can, when trying to make anything when you can. So when I got done school, that's when I was really able to ramp up Mummer's stuff. But before that, before like December 15th, I made about 3 rehearsals the entire year, and it was before school started.
Mm-hmm.
And so trying to balance that, schoolwork, and then in the summer you got baseball, but even during the fall you still got like workouts and everything with them. So trying to balance all that can be tough at points.
Mm-hmm.
I know I had my fair share of struggles with it, but overall I think I did a pretty good job at balancing it all.
Putting it all together.
Yeah.
So speaking of putting it all together, so this next series that we're working on of the String Band Sessions podcast is called Concept to Creation. So what we're having everyone come in and kind of lift the veil a little bit and allow our audience, our fans, to kind of get behind the scenes of, how do these ideas come about? And then how are they developed and planned for what they eventually see when they, come out to see the parade or when they turn on their TVs. So Duffy is going to be doing a music store. So there's been a lot of themes around musical instruments and kind of music in general, but no one's done like a music store before. So just tell us a little bit about how that was chosen.
So when we came back to the theme committee, all got together, we all said one thing in common. We wanted to try something new this year. And we saw an opportunity with the Downtowners Fancy Brigade, where we could potentially buy their suits and make something out of that. And so we talked to them. We got a nice price that we wanted, and we decided we were going to do it. We were going to try something new, try this music store idea. Me personally, I'm really excited for it. So you're going to see some drums, violins, pianos, violas.
Coming to life.
Coming to life at nighttime when the shop's closed.
Gotcha.
Only the shopkeeper's there.
And are you the shopkeeper?
I am the shopkeeper. Yes.
Okay. So, so I get sort of a picture of that. The committee said they wanted to do something different. Were there any other new ideas, or because of the kind of downtown, because of that dynamic, did everybody just kind of zero in on this and say, yeah, it's new, it's different, and it fits our requirements of what we're trying to do?
We brought it to the table, and we had, I think, 4 or 5 other ideas, and it just seemed like everyone was really like jazzed about this idea. Like they heard some ideas that we had.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, I can tell you this one because we didn't end up using it. We had a big gramophone, and it would come on, start spinning the gramophone, and the music would crank up like 50s music.
Mm-hmm.
Really like going. And then the shopkeeper gets tired. He's ready for bed. He goes and He goes, slows it down, and then we have a big thing come out, big crash. He wakes up, he starts spinning it again, and the music goes back up. And we were really trying to think this year, like, ideas for, like, music effect, music, like, general effect kind of thing.
So that's
visual
not an
to
idea. So that
music.
that skit, that
That
idea,
skit's not in the show
we're not
this
going to
year.
see it.
You're not gonna see it in
Okay,
the show this
I'm disappointed because that sounded really good. So, so where does the development stand? Like at this point, have all the sketches been approved? Do you have any music yet? You don't have to tell me like details of that, but how far along? I'm sure you've tried. A lot of bands, they'll try a few songs or they'll look at a couple of different sketches and then things begin to come together. But you already had the costumes, obviously.
Yep.
So now you have to add to that.
We have everyone fitted for a suit now. They're all done hanging up in the attic, and we are waiting on one sketch that would be mine that is coming this week. We have 3.5 minutes of music already written.
Wow.
And done. And we should be getting the last half next Wednesday. So we're actually really ahead of the game right now.
That's great. So as kind of everything begins to unfold then, does Duffy make all of its own sets and props? And do you fabricate all those yourselves or do you have someone who does that?
So we build the sets. We hire a painter to come in and paint some of this stuff. Our head marshal, Joe Connolly, he prints like for his regular job. And so we can have him sometimes print a prop like onto the chloroplast that we then just put on there. So we do a lot of that. We have some modifications to the suits this year that we're doing. Like right now I'm working on our drummer's suit at home in my spare time, which I'm almost done that. And like overall, we try to keep most of it in-house, but you do got to go outside. Like for the guys that are painting, we don't have a painter in-house. So you got to go outside for that stuff.
And then do you do all the makeup and everything? Band members, you have people that do the makeup for you and the rest of the band members?
So we hire Stacy's Face Painting. You can go find them in Linvilla Orchards. They're there almost every day.
Okay.
They come out, they do our faces, and we don't stay in-house, but I know a lot of bands stay in-house with the makeup.
With the makeup. So do you think, is there any chance we might see Jake with some sort of like back piece as part of this?
That is the plan.
That is the
plan
plan.
is for a back piece.
Okay. I'm happy with that. I'm giving a thumbs up to that. And I think we did skip over at the very beginning. So for people who are not familiar, where's the band headquartered? Where's the band's
The band
club?
is headquartered in Fishtown on Cedar Street for any of the people in there in Fishtown. Come by, visit. We're rehearsing every Wednesday night, 7:30. It's a good time. Come out. Just have fun.
That's great. Well, I'm really excited. Thank you for sharing, kind of giving us a little bit of the behind the scenes. It is, as we said, it's not a theme that a string band has done before. And since it's a musical organization, coming up with a way to kind of incorporate the store elements over and above just the musical instruments, I think is something we'll be looking forward to. So I'll be visiting in the fall. So I'll be coming to some of the rehearsals because I'm anxious to actually see it and live it with all the bands so that I can talk more effectively about it in the booth on New Year's Day. So thank you so much for coming
Thank you for having
and
me.
talking with us today.
Of course,
That's
thank
Jake
you.
Kudrick, captain of Duffy String Band. So I'm here with Ed Maminski, who is the drill master and production manager for Aqua String Band, and Brennan Flaherty, who's the assistant production manager. So thank you guys for joining us
problem.
tonight. So we're going to talk a little bit about Aqua. Of course, Ed, your father Ken Maminski was captain of the band. How long have you been in Aqua?
So I joined the band back in August of 2005. My first parade was 2006, and I've done every year since. So this will be my 20th parade up the street with the band.
20th parade. Wow. Time flies,
Yes,
right?
it does.
Time flies. How about you, Brennan?
So I joined Aqua in May of 2012. So I was about 8 or 9. So I'll be going to my 13th, 14th year.
Wow. And what did you play?
So I started out on accordion when I was 8 or 9. So it was definitely a big instrument on me. And then I switched to saxophone in like 2016, 2017. And I've been playing it ever since.
Yeah. Accordion was my first instrument. I never stuck with it long enough to play it in a string band, but I'll talk about what I played in the bands in a little bit. So Brennan, Ed was telling me, so you're in college right now?
Yes, I'm going to my senior year at Penn State. And it's exciting to go back. I have 1 more year left. So.
And what are you
nice.
studying?
I'm studying secondary education.
So nothing to do with production or shows or entertainment or anything
We
like
wish.
that. Yeah, to combine those interests. So let me just say a little bit about Aqua, the history of Aqua. So Aqua is one of the oldest bands. It was founded in 1920, marched for the first time in 1921. A little bit of trivia, because people ask about like how a lot of the bands are named for people, but
Yes.
this band in particular is interestingly named Aqua, which means water. So it was named to sort of make fun of the fact that during Prohibition you couldn't drink, so they named it after water, which was like the legal drink at the time, although like, yeah, we know what was probably going on. The band's also known for introducing an instrument to the string bands, the glockenspiel or bells, which I'm so glad that they introduced it because that's what I ended up playing. That was the instrument that I played when I was in Hegeman String Band for many, many years, and I'm glad that Aqua introduced the bells. So let's now talk about why we're here. In this particular session is to talk about how the bands go from their concept to what we actually see on New Year's Day. So for 2026, we're talking about Highlands of Enchantment was kind of a little broad. So can you give us a little bit of insight into how it was chosen and how the planning is going?
Sure. So the show started off as an Irish concept that we've had on our table for a couple years now, right? And the biggest thing was we didn't want to just do a straight cultural theme. We wanted to kind of have a little bit more of a show aspect to it. And originally we're trying to steer away from just doing leprechauns and doing what Avalon did. What year was that? 2008?
2008.
So the one concept that we started to come up with was a Honey, I Shrunk the Kids aspect to the show. So in the sense of how bands have done bugs and the props are larger than life around them, we implemented that to this Irish show. And that's kind of the route we've taken. Did I miss anything on that?
So that's the enchantment.
So that's the enchantment.
So it's
part.
still an Irish.
So it's Irish at heart. So the music and what you're going to be hearing for the most part is going to be from the Irish catalog, but the visuals of the world around you is going to be a lot more of the enchantment and these larger than life aspects.
Okay. So I know bands often get their sort of ideas or inspiration from Broadway, from films, from watching past performances of other bands. Do you do that, Brennan? Do you watch
Yeah, for
other
sure.
bands?
So we always, go back, especially around, January, February. We'll go back when we're on the drawing boards. We'll go back, watch the previous year that just passed by. We'll go back a few years. We'll even go back, 10, 20 years, see, what works, what doesn't, how we can implement stuff in our show to make it better. And yeah, and especially with an Irish show, there's been plenty of Irish shows. You've seen Froungers, you've seen Avalons. So there's a lot of shows like that that have gone to the street, and it's definitely a show that we've tried to, put on the table for a while, and it's really nice that we're able to do this now.
Yeah. So probably neither of you have perhaps ever heard of this show or this film, but I'm just going to put it out there for you to check it out. There's a film that was originally based on a Broadway musical called Finian's Rainbow, which kind of has elements of what you're talking about. So check that out. You never know where another idea may come from. So as the development sort of happens through this process. So what is your particular band? What is your process for, okay, the idea is solidified. We're doing this idea. What's the kind of internal workings of how do the steps unfold?
So it starts by after the show. Usually when the show's picked because it has the best storyline kind of already set out. So we won't just grab a show based just off of mere concept. We like to make sure that the show has a start, it has a middle, and it has an ending. So by the time the show's up, we get approved by the association. We're kind of already in a good point in development. From there, we like to really set forth what the story is going to tell. So how are we opening the show? Who are the characters? From there, we like to see where the ending's happening. So what is the purpose of our storyline and where is the plot going? And then what kind of other aspects are going to happen in that middle to kind of help tell the story along. Mm-hmm. So it's really developing the characters, developing the setting, and then we kind of move into the music and kind of the overall feeling of what kind of, during the opener, how do we want you to feel? Do you want to be sad? Do you want to be happy? Do we want to create this tension? And then we do that throughout every scene in the show and kind of not just pick music based upon, oh, well, this is Four-Leaf Clover, this is Irish Eyes, this is McNamara's band. We like to pick it based to help the feeling.
And I know, Aqua has been pretty creative with even sort of injecting humor into, little kind of ways in which you can make people like think or smile or chuckle.
Yes.
And I could definitely see how that could possibly get introduced into this idea.
Yeah, no, there's definitely going to be, because Irish, it's a very lighthearted theme. It's not, a dark theme at all. So there's definitely going to be some gimmicks, some moments where the crowd, hopefully the judges will, chuckle or laugh when they see it. So yeah, there's definitely a few of those.
So, so Aqua has now one of the youngest captains, in all of the string bands in Austin Tilly. So how is it, as you're now developing these ideas and thinking about, the role that he can play and I guess the physicality of what a younger, let's be honest, what a younger captain might be able to do, how is that being incorporated?
So we developed props that are much taller now from the jump off of. But no, it's a lot of just his role now. So when we used to design shows with my dad, we tried to keep his character grand and big and kind of work towards his personality and his build. And with Austin being the more athletic, younger kind of personnel, we kind of develop that into the show. So his character this year is going to be a leprechaun who's the mayor of all the other leprechauns in this kind of small village, and he'll be sprinkling his magic across the show to kind of help move it along, and he's going to bring that energy to the group instead of like everybody else bringing that and complimenting in that way.
So in terms of like timeline, so where are we at this point? Are we kind of like halfway through in terms of like costume, the score, sets and props? Are we pretty far along? You don't have to give away all the details, but just like how far along are things?
So we basically have the entire show laid out. We basically at this point know, each hit, each, count. We know basically exactly what we want. We should be receiving, the last minute or minute and a half of our show in the coming weeks. So we've already played around with the band with, our opener and, the first, I'd say 2.5 minutes ish. Yeah. So yeah, we have that. We've had our costumes drawn for a little bit now. We've met with Sammy Rags already with them.
Taking materials, and then I know by the end of July we're expected to get the full colored sets. So I think overall process-wise we're moving pretty pretty on our time frame. But that's also a loose saying, I think, in the mum world, because the shows are ever changing, and
Yeah.
especially as like we've learned in our creative design, if you're not changing it, I feel like the show becomes stagnant because you get so many more ideas, and you see
And
the
you-
show in a better view.
And also, I mean, I'm sure when there's a team approaching this, which I'm sure you have, everybody has their own, well, maybe we can do this and maybe we can do this.
Yep.
Then it becomes like choices. We've got 4.5 minutes. We can't incorporate every idea that everyone has. And then it's like, okay, should we do this or should we do this? And so does David Rigler,
Yes.
David does the sets?
He does our sets and our costumes.
He does the set design
Yes.
and the costumes.
Yes.
And the costume design as well. So where is the band headquartered? Let people know, because not everybody knows where every band is headquartered.
So we're right on Richmond Street in Bridesburg. If you're familiar with Bridesburg and the rec center, we're right across the street from there. So we've been there for, gosh, I don't even
know either. It's probably like 30
I'm
years.
27, and we've been there for at least longer than that.
At least longer than
And
that.
we really love Bridesburg. The neighborhood is it's such a tight knit community. There's one way in and 2 ways in and 2 ways out.
Yeah.
So it's like a nice small area, and we just love the way the neighborhood supports us. And even not being down in South Philly and having that like 2 Street aspect, we kind of started to create that environment in our own neighborhood, especially around New Year's. Like we get off the buses at Richmond Orthodox, and it seems like half the neighborhood comes out and meets us there.
Yeah, I was going to say the social media around, on New Year's night of saying, we'll be there, we're on our way. And then the community support, this community
Yeah,
support
we-
is so great.
We love to keep them updated because everybody knows how the parade can go. Sometimes on Broad Street, there's some holdups sometimes. So we love to just make sure that they're aware so that they can be there and they're not waiting in the cold for us.
Yeah, for sure. So thank you to Ed and to Brennan for joining us to talk a little bit about what we're going to see from Aqua on January 1st, 2026. We're excited
So are
to
we.
see it all. And we appreciate you taking the time to come be part of our podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks a lot.